Welcome to Passion Travel. Explore world street food, captivating vlogs, and inspiring journeys with us. Subscribe to experience adventure in every video. Crêpes, thin pancakes filled with sweet or savory fillings like Nutella. Here's a basic recipe for crêpes, along with the ingredients and preparation steps. Ingredients: 1 cup all-purpose flour, 2 large eggs, 1 1/4 cups milk, 2 tablespoons melted butter, 1/4 teaspoons salt, 1 tablespoon granulated sugar. For sweet crepes, optional. Additional butter or oil for greasing the pan. Instructions. Prepare the batter. In a mixing bowl, sift the flour and salt together. In another bowl, whisk together the eggs, milk, melted butter, and sugar, if using, until well combined. Gradually add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, whisking continuously to form a smooth batter. You can also use a blender for this step to ensure a lump-free batter. Let the batter rest for about 15-30 minutes at room temperature. This helps the gluten relax and results in tender crepes. Cook the crepes. Heat a non-stick skillet or crepe pan over medium heat. You can also lightly grease the pan with butter or oil to prevent sticking. Once the pan is hot, pour a small ladle full of batter, about 1/4 cup, into the center of the pan. Quickly swirl the pan to spread the batter evenly into a thin, circular shape. Cook the crepe for about 1-2 minutes or until the edges start to lift slightly and the bottom is golden brown. Using a spatula, carefully flip the crepe and cook for an additional 1-2 minutes on the other side until golden brown. Transfer the cooked crepe to a plate and repeat the process with the remaining batter. You may need to adjust the heat slightly as you go to prevent the crepes from burning. Serve. Once all the crepes are cooked, you can fill them with your favorite sweet or savory toppings. Popular options include Nutella, jam, chocolate chaud, rich and creamy hot chocolate served in small cups. Here's how to make a classic French hot chocolate, known as chocolate chaud. Ingredients: 2 cups whole milk, 1/4 cup heavy cream, optional for extra richness, 4 ounces bittersweet or semi-sweet chocolate, finely chopped 2 tablespoons granulated sugar, adjust to taste, 1-2 teaspoon vanilla extract, optional. Instructions: heat the milk. In a saucepan, heat the milk and heavy cream, if using, over medium heat until it begins to simmer. Stir occasionally to prevent scorching. Add chocolate. Once the milk is simmering, remove the saucepan from the heat. Add the finely chopped chocolate to the hot milk and let it sit for a minute to soften. Stir. After a minute, gently whisk the chocolate into the milk until it is completely melted and the mixture is smooth and creamy. You can return the saucepan to low heat if needed to help melt the chocolate, but be careful not to let it boil. Sweeten. Stir in the granulated sugar, adjusting the amount to suit your taste preferences. Keep in mind that the sweetness level will depend on the type of chocolate you use and personal preference. Add vanilla, optional. If desired, stir in the vanilla extract for added flavor. This is optional, but adds a lovely aroma to the hot chocolate. Serve. Once the hot chocolate is smooth and well combined, pour it into mugs and serve immediately. You can optionally top each serving with whipped cream, marshmallows, or a sprinkle of cocoa powder for extra indulgence. Tartelettes, small tarts filled with fruit, custard, or chocolate. Tartelettes are small tartlets that are often filled with various sweet or savory fillings. Here's a basic recipe for making sweet tartelettes. Ingredients: 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup unsalted butter, cold and cut into small cubes, 1/4 cup granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1 large egg yolk, 2-3 tablespoons ice water. For the filling, your choice of fruit preserves, lemon curd, pastry cream, chocolate ganache, or fresh fruits like berries or sliced peaches. Instructions: prepare the pastry dough. In a large mixing bowl, combine the flour, sugar, and salt. Add the cold cubed butter to the flour mixture. Using a pastry cutter or your fingertips, work the butter into the flour until the mixture resembles coarse crumbs. In a small bowl, whisk together the egg yolk and 2 tablespoons of ice water. Gradually add the egg mixture to the flour mixture, stirring with a fork until the dough starts to come together. Add additional ice water, 1 tablespoon at a time, if needed. Turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface and gently knead it a few times until it forms a smooth ball. Flatten the dough into a disc, wrap it in plastic wrap, and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes to chill. Preheat the oven. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees F, 190 degrees C. Lightly grease a mini tart pan or line a baking sheet with parchment paper. Roll out the dough. Once the dough has chilled, remove it from the refrigerator and let it sit at room temperature for a few minutes to soften slightly. On a lightly floured surface, roll out the dough to about 1/8 inch thickness. Use a round cookie cutter or a glass to cut out circles slightly larger than the indentations in your mini tart pan. Form the tart shells. Gently press each circle of dough into the wells of the tart pan, making sure to press it into the corners and up the sides. Trim off any excess dough with a sharp knife. Fill the tartelettes. Fill each tart shell with your desired filling. This could be fruit preserves, lemon curd, pastry cream, chocolate ganache, or fresh fruit slices. Bake. Place the filled tart pan in the preheated oven and bake for 12-15 minutes or until the crust is golden brown and the filling is set. Cool and serve. Allow the tartelettes to cool in the pan for a few minutes before carefully transferring them to a wire rack to cool completely. Serve the tartelettes at room temperature and enjoy. Quiches, savory pies filled with cheese, vegetables, and meats. Quiches are savory pies made with a pastry crust filled with a rich and creamy custard base, along with various ingredients such as cheese, vegetables, meats, or seafood. Here's a basic recipe for making a classic quiche Lorraine. Ingredients: for the pastry crust, 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1-2 teaspoons salt, 1-2 cup unsalted butter, cold and cut into small cubes, 1-4 cup ice water. For the filling, 6 slices bacon, diced 1 small onion, finely chopped 1 cup shredded Gruyere or Swiss cheese, 4 large eggs, 1 cup heavy cream, 1-2 teaspoons salt, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, pinch of nutmeg. Instructions: prepare the pastry crust. In a mixing bowl, combine the flour and salt. Add the cold cubed butter and use a pastry cutter or your fingertips to work the butter into the flour until it resembles coarse crumbs. Gradually add the ice water, 1 tablespoon at a time, mixing until the dough comes together. Form the dough into a disc, wrap it in plastic wrap, and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes. Preheat the oven. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees F, 190 degrees C. Roll out the dough. On a lightly floured surface, roll out the chilled dough into a circle about 1/8 inch thick. Transfer the dough to a 9-inch pie dish or tart pan, pressing it into the bottom and up the sides. Trim off any excess dough and crimp the edges as desired. Par bake the crust. Line the pastry crust with parchment paper or aluminum foil and fill it with pie weights or dried beans to prevent it from puffing up during baking. Bake the crust in the preheated oven for about 15 minutes. Remove the weights and parchment paper, then continue baking for another 5 minutes or until the crust is lightly golden. Remove from the oven and set aside. Prepare the filling. In a skillet, cook the diced bacon over medium heat until crispy. Remove the bacon from the skillet and place it on a paper towel-lined plate to drain excess grease. In the same skillet, cook the chopped onion until softened and translucent. Remove from heat and set aside. In a mixing bowl, whisk together the eggs, heavy cream, salt, pepper, and nutmeg until well combined. Assemble and bake the quiche. Sprinkle the cooked bacon and onions evenly over the bottom of the par-baked pastry crust. Top with shredded cheese. Pour the egg mixture over the filling ingredients in the crust. Place the quiche in the preheated oven and bake for 30 Macarons. Colorful almond meringue cookies with various flavored fillings. Macarons are delicate and flavorful French meringue-based cookies with a smooth, crisp exterior and a soft, chewy interior. Here's a basic recipe for making traditional French macarons. Ingredients: for the macaron shells, 1 cup, 100 g. Almond flour, 1 3/4 cups, 200 g. Powdered sugar, 2 large egg whites, at room temperature, 1/4 cup, 50 g. Granulated sugar gel food coloring. Optional. For the filling, your choice of ganache, buttercream, jam, or curd. Instructions. Prepare baking sheets. Line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper or silicone baking mats. This will prevent the macarons from sticking during baking. Prepare almond flour mixture. In a medium bowl, sift together the almond flour and powdered sugar to remove any lumps. Set aside. Whip egg whites. In a clean, dry mixing bowl, beat the egg whites with a hand mixer or stand mixer on medium speed until cool and fill. Remove the macarons from the oven and let them cool completely on the baking sheets. Once cooled, carefully peel them off the parchment paper or baking mat. Match up similar-sized macaron shells and pair them together. Pipe or spread your desired filling onto the flat side of one shell, then sandwich it with another shell. Mature and enjoy. Place the filled macarons in an airtight container and refrigerate them for 24-48 hours to allow the flavors to meld and the texture to mature. Bring the macarons to room temperature before serving and enjoy their deliciousness.